Greetings, friend, and welcome to the Between the Covers podcast, where we are working every day to remove the self-limiting beliefs that are preventing us from becoming the heroes of our own stories. I am Marcus Barr, and today I want to talk about mentorship. And what I'm talking about in terms of mentorship, I'm also referring to coaching. One of the things about the hero's journey is the value of finding a mentor. In fact, it's one of the key steps in the hero's journey. And the mentor is someone who is able to help the hero achieve whatever goals or overcome the trials that are expected of the hero. This is something that I have been experiencing more and more these last couple of days, really. I have had some things that are really challenging me, and I oftentimes find myself shutting down, and I become overwhelmed with fear. A fear that tells me that I'm not good enough, that whatever I'm going to do, it's just going to either figuratively or literally explode in my face. And this is a life that I'm growing quite weary of, to be honest. I have two individuals who have been mentoring me through this. One is my therapist. I actually just met with her an hour ago of the time of this recording, and she has done a great job of creating a safe space for me to share what it is that is going on in my life, what it is that is driving my behaviors, what my thoughts are, and I can just be completely candid with her. And it has been a very fruitful relationship that we have had. And while I was talking with her today, this was one of the things I wanted to talk with her about. Specifically that I hit this wall of awful and I just shut down. And I often become so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do. I don't know what the next step is. And by having this safe space to talk about this, one of the things that she shared is that I have been unwilling to follow my own advice that I have been sharing on this podcast. I have not been challenging these thoughts that have been coming to my mind. Last week, I was talking about taking back our creativity. This is something that I have wrestled with for years, and I was sharing about these stories and these examples of how I tried to do something creative and something bad inevitably happened with it. This was me focusing too much on the end goal, on the results, instead of looking at the journey. Because while I do hope that some of these things will garner some kind of positive attention, I have been focusing too much on the potential negative attention that they could receive. I have been focusing too much on what I have deemed failures instead of the fun that I have had along the way. I have helped to run a YouTube channel for 10 years, and it has very much fizzled out at this point. Yet, instead of looking at that as a failure, I've been challenged to look at it as, did I have fun? Were there moments where I was having fun creating these videos for this channel? I hadn't really looked at it that way. My therapist, I guess I'll just go and say my therapist, Brandy, helped me to see that my thoughts were focusing on the wrong thing. and I should challenge those thoughts. In fact, it's going to be a good practice for me to challenge these thoughts that all of this has been for naught. Because, yeah, for 10 years, I created video game content for a YouTube channel, and it didn't really go anywhere. After 10 years, I maybe have like 140 subscribers. It was a passion project. It was a hobby. It was something fun that my partner Libby and I started together. Once she burned out, I picked up the mantle, and then eventually I just kind of got tired of it too. Nothing wrong with that. We still had fun along the way. I still have some great friends from interacting with individuals through this channel. So Brandy challenged me to look at the journey and focus on the good that came from it, not on the end results that to a certain degree didn't turn out the way that I expected them to. And while we were conversing about this, I just made a comment that it's me focusing too much on the destination instead of the journey. And after I said that, she looked at me and said, and there is something about that journey that you do enjoy. And she's right. If I didn't enjoy the journey, I would not have picked up my book as many times as I have and continued to work on it. There is something about this journey that I enjoy. It's a wellspring of my creativity. So instead of focusing on how things have not turned out the way that I've wanted them to, what would happen if I changed that mindset and instead I focused on how much I have enjoyed this process of creating? Left to my own devices, I don't know if I would have come to that conclusion myself. That is the value of having a mentor. That's the value of having a coach. That's the value of having someone who can point out your blind spots. A friend of mine, Lori, who I worked with through a coaching certification, she has said many, many times that every good coach has a coach. And if we take a look at all of these heroes in these different stories, they all have mentors. They all have those guides. They all have someone who helps them to point out the blind spots that they experience. It actually makes me think of Frodo and Gandalf. In the Fellowship of the Ring, one of the things that Gandalf does is they have a moment in the Mines of Moria where Frodo becomes aware that Gollum is nearby and he's constantly being drawn to the ring. And he makes a comment about how it was a shame that his uncle Bilbo didn't kill Gollum when he had a chance. That it was a pity that he didn't kill him. And Gandalf turned to him and said, Pity is what stayed his hand. And with that remark and challenging it, it goes more in depth than that, but he effectively challenges Frodo in this misbelief that he would have that kind of control over the life of another creature. That, yeah, Gollum made some poor choices, but that didn't necessarily mean that Bilbo and Frodo after him had to make similar poor choices. And it challenged him. That's what mentors do. And it pointed out a blind spot in Frodo. Just a quick reminder that if you have enjoyed this episode, then click the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future uploads. This is something that Brandy has done for me. And just last night, I had a different mentor do the same thing. This is Justin. He is a new mentor in my life. He is actually a youth pastor at my friend's church. And he has experience as a coach as well. So he and I have been talking. I actually do not attend this church. I go to this church 2 to 3 times a week in order to work out with my friends. And he happens to be the youth pastor at this church, works very closely with my friend Ben, who is one of the youth leaders as well. And Justin has given me an assignment to work on, and I have been very hesitant to work on this assignment. Very similar to what I shared last week is I hit this wall of awful when I think about working on this assignment because I'm so overwhelmed with fear. I'm so riddled with anxiety that when I look at the email that's still sitting in my inbox and he even tells me have fun with this assignment, I don't think about having fun with it. I think about all of the stuff from my history that comes up and tells me, yeah, this is going to turn into a very similar creative process. You're going to make some process on it. Maybe you'll actually complete it, and then you just wait for the other shoe to drop. Something bad is going to happen with it. I was sharing this with him, and as we were talking about it last night, he encouraged me to think about these things that I am afraid of and really dig deep into them. When I am looking at these things that I am afraid will happen, are they real or are they not? Are they some kind of fantasy that my mind has fabricated? And I could tell him, yeah, they're not real. These fears that I have, there's no evidence that this is a real, legitimate fear. And then he challenged me, is what I intend to do, is it going to harm me? Realistically speaking, no, it's not going to harm me. It's not me writing a book, me working on a small group curriculum, me continuing to pivot my business in order to align it more with where I am at personally. These are not things that are going to harm me, like cause any kind of physical harm. But that's how it can feel sometimes. It can feel like my life is in danger. And that's fear. Fear can do a great job of protecting us. And if it doesn't have anything tangible that it can protect us from, it will start to fabricate what it can protect us from. I am afraid of failing. I am even afraid of success. And I am stuck in this bizarre purgatory between failing and succeeding. And I'm stuck here because of my fear. And so Justin challenged me, you take one step and then you evaluate. Look, I survived. The harm that I was expecting didn't happen. So then you take the next step. Look, I survived again. And in fact, he shared something with me last night that he told me he heard it from one of the best therapists in his life, and it was a real gut punch to him. And as soon as he said it to me, it wasn't really a gut punch. It made complete sense. But he was really giving voice to what I have been doing for so long. And that is talking and strategizing about what you're going to do is procrastination. I talk a lot about what I am intending to do, what I'm going to do. I think about what I'm going to do. I try and develop strategies of what I'm going to do, but I don't actually do it. That's the problem. I am a chief in procrastinating. I am great at finding other things that I can do in order to avoid what would be better for me to spend my time with. So maybe it was a little bit of a gut punch, but it was a well-deserved one, because Justin just voiced exactly what I needed to hear, whether I wanted to hear it or not. I wasn't surprised by what he said. And he then challenged me, a lot like Brandy has done, to challenge my thoughts. What am I so afraid of? Is it real? Take the next step and evaluate. I survived. I'm okay. Nothing bad happened. Take the next step and continue to challenge these thoughts. In fact, he went so far as to just point at his head and go, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, over and over and over again. Because sometimes that's what we need to do. These thoughts are ones that are, in many cases, ever present. They never go away. What changes is whether we choose to listen to them or not. That is something that I oftentimes forget. I forget that I don't have to listen to those thoughts. One of the purposes of this podcast is to give you guys a glimpse into my own journey. And so I have shared in the past about the value of challenging these thoughts, about taking those next logical steps, about the hero's journey, the value of having people supporting you, of avoiding the voices of critics that are just trying to tear you down. And yet here I am, still stuck in the same mess. And that's why it is important for me to even heed my own words and the words of these valuable people in my life. That is the value of having a mentor. That is the value of having a coach. That's the value of having a therapist. That is the value of having someone who can get you out of your own head, out of your own routines, in order to challenge, point out blind spots, and encourage that we make the changes that are necessary to become the heroes of our own stories. It is my sincerest hope that this is the same for you. It is my sincerest hope that as I continue down this journey and I continue to talk and process about my work, about what I'm working to overcome, what I am finding valuable, that you can be inspired as well. Inspired to step into your own story. Inspire you to find a mentor. Find someone who can support you. Hey, just one more quick reminder that you can submit questions or ideas for heroes that we can do a hero study on by going to the link in the description to my podcast page. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you and looking at any questions or ideas that you would like to have discussed on this platform. Really, what it all comes down to, all of the great heroes have had great mentors. Someone who is a phenomenal coach has been coached. And I'm just not talking about a life coach. I'm talking even in the realm of sports. These individuals who step in order to coach people to be better players have all been coached before. Find that person. Find someone, maybe even a group of someones who can help encourage you, challenge you, and guide you towards your own greatness. As I keep saying, we need more heroes. And when the time is right, after you have had your own experience being the hero of your own story, you can return the favor that was given to you. And you can coach someone else. You can be that mentor to someone else. And we can continue to grow as a society that believes in itself. A society that not just believes in itself, but also believes in its people. That there is something innately good in all of us. That we can find where we agree and where we share ground and commonalities instead of focusing so much on what makes us different. We've got way too much of that. Way too much of that already. But let's become the heroes of our stories. And this is a journey that I am on. And if I get into the covers, if I get between the covers of my story, which is the namesake of this podcast, the namesake of my business, between the covers, getting into our stories. When I get between the covers of my story, I will find examples where I have been the hero. I can find examples where things have been good, they have been joyous, I have exhibited strength, I have stood up for what I believe in, I have protected. These are the people that we need more of. And I bet if you look in your own story, you can see similar threads as well. Until next time, live strong for today.